Let's bring in Dave Maney. He is president at Digital. Dave, what do you think of these numbers?
I think we're moving to a different time in the life cycle, or the life, at least, of Amazon as a company. It's going from being a go-go growth company to now it's just one of the hugest companies in the American economy. And it's the old saying, trees don't grow to the sky. So when you start to get bigger like this, as they have, the thing is still growing revenue at an amazing rate, right? It was up like 24%, I believe. But you can't do that forever. And you're watching competitors begin to swarm in around businesses that they previously completely dominated. The web services business, Walmart, existing competitors on the retail side are coming after them. So it's very, very tough. Like they are the unicorn's unicorn. They are the tip of the horn. And they have been probably the most remarkable American company of the past 15 years. But all good things sort of come to an end. And it doesn't mean they're not a great company.
Dave, let's go back in history here, because last year they did the same thing. They got it for a weaker than anticipated holiday shopping period. What did they do? They came out and beat. Isn't this just Amazon's style of being conservative, give a guidance that might be weaker than anticipated, but makes it easier to jump over?
There's a smaller sort of thing going on here, which is that attention's sort of turning hard to their earnings, right? It's no longer anymore just about the top line. It's now kind of, hey, what are the components and how is this working and which business line is growing? And that's all becoming very important. But I'm telling you, it's becoming important because now it's moving to a phase as a mature and regular company. Doesn't mean it's not going to grow fast. It's growing faster than any other company of its size, but it does mean that those amazing kind of like we've never seen this before days are probably behind it.
Hey, Dave, Gary Smith, I'm going to take the opposite side, and I want you to comment. I don't think that Amazon is acting as a mature company. I think it's a company that actually kind of reinvents itself. It reinvented itself, remember, years ago as a web services company. They never used to do that. They're reinventing themselves by building a moat around their distribution with this one-day delivery that almost no one will be able to match. They're reinventing themselves by just a couple years ago getting into grocery. I would not be surprised if they made inroads into healthcare, inroads into financial services. This is a company I think keeps reinventing itself, but that's my take, obviously. I wonder your opinion.
I think there's definitely elements of truth to what you're saying, Gary. You got to admire Bezos as probably the most innovative / aggressive major company CEO in the world. And I think that's terrific. My only point is, A, I don't believe that any company can dominate every sector of the economy. Like that doesn't make sense. Like specialization counts. I mean, it's either specialization or size, right? And they're using size to their advantage in things like in the retail side. They're going after, as you point out, the one-day delivery because he believes that's an imperative that he has to have to compete against brick and mortar retailers. Like that's the last barrier. If I could get the thing tomorrow, I'm pretty much, then why would I ever go out of the house? And I do believe that they are incredibly innovative. I'm just pointing out that innovation, just like this one-day delivery thing, that innovation is going to come at a higher and higher cost in pursuit of lower and lower margins. And that's why I say it's moving that way.
Well, all right, regulations. I got to talk because Congress seems to be in a pro-regulation mode right now. None of us may like it, but just the fact of the matter, it's happening right now. What is likely to face Amazon as a regulatory obstacle in the next coming year or so?
Well, I think one thing is it probably makes it harder and raises suspicions when they go after another, should they decide they want to be the giant in healthcare. And they made another healthcare acquisition yesterday. And you can imagine that it gets harder and harder and raises more and more eyebrows when they move to other verticals or other major verticals. The one observation I'd give you is that if you imagine that somebody went very hard at them and said, we're going to break you up, I believe that if you look back at the history of companies that have come under heavy regulatory or antitrust scrutiny, it's not necessarily a terrible thing for the investors. It's not going to happen.
Dave, certainly was with Microsoft. Dave, you remember Microsoft? I mean, when they went under antitrust scrutiny,
check I've specifically addressed this before. Check the Microsoft stock chart when that thing first happened. It was 12 years ago. So check your price, check your Microsoft values and sizes and market cap today versus 12 years ago.
Hey, guys, I want to switch to Twitter because it's in big trouble right now, closing down about 21%. The company blaming technical glitches in its advertising software. Susan is shaking her head during its third quarter. It led to a big hit in revenue. So, Dave, what do you make of this?
My sense is even though they had strong user growth, it is increasingly its own world. And all of us that are on this panel today, and you, David, are avid users of it, but it is not a mainstream service. It drives a huge amount of our news coverage, but it is not absorbed into the bloodstream of America in the same way that Facebook is, and it's never going to be.
Right, because Facebook, they're going to report next week $1.6 billion just on the Blue website alone. All platforms combined, it's like $2.5 billion of the planet use Instagram, WhatsApp, and the Facebook combined. But for Twitter, they actually raised and they hiked up the daily active users to 145 million users each and every day. Probably us in the news world and President Trump. But I can't believe that you would have a malfunction in your software that you can't monetize and make more money on each of these users that you get.
Particularly when you have one guy using Twitter so much, changing the entire news cycle for the entire world. But it's not helping the company right now. Dave, great to see you. Thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it.